Okay, I want to start today with a scenario, a very specific, maybe a little uncomfortable scenario. I want you to picture a king, and not the Disney version. I mean a ruler of a vast ancient empire who was in, well, deep trouble.
The stakes are high from the get-go. I like it.
Exactly. So this king, he has a vault. And in this vault are the Ot-zrot, the treasures, locked away for generations.
Right.
We're talking crown jewels, heirlooms, the kind of wealth that is the very essence of the kingdom. Even his top generals, his most trusted advisors, they've never even seen these things.
They just know they exist. It's the ultimate rainy day fund, the nuclear option of wealth.
Precisely. Now, a war breaks out, and not just a border skirmish. The enemy is at the gates. It's chaos, it's muddy, it's brutal.
Existential threat.
Totally. And the king does something that seems, frankly, insane. He goes down to the vault, takes a sledgehammer to the locks, and drags out these priceless hidden jewels.
He's emptying the savings account.
He is. But here's the kicker, and this is the paradox we need to crack today. He doesn't give them to the generals. He doesn't use them to buy elite mercenaries. He takes the crown jewels, the most precious things in existence, and hands them directly to the foot soldiers, the grunts.
The ones covered in mud.
Yes, the ones who are just trying to survive the day.
So why? Why trust the most valuable things to the simplest people in the messiest possible place?
That is the question, and that's what we're diving into today. A fascinating text, a mamar or Hasidic discourse from the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
And the date is significant. It's from 1966.
Exactly 60 years ago, relative to the source material's context.
And for anyone who follows, Chassidic, a mamar isn't just the speech. It's not something you just nod along to. It's really a roadmap for existence.
And this one tackles that feeling I think everyone listening has had, that the world is chaotic, it's full of nonsense, it just feels broken sometimes.
It asks the ultimate why. If the spiritual world is so pure and this physical world is so noisy, why is this the place the Creator wants to live? Why are we even here?
It's a bold question.
And the answer involves cosmic yo-yos, a concept called holy insanity, and that treasure vault you just mentioned.
So let's jump in. The text is titled Bati Legani.
From the Song of Songs. It translates to, I have come to my garden.
Which sounds lovely, right? Very pastoral, flowers, birds.
Peaceful. But in this context, it's actually a radical reclamation. The text explains that when God says garden, he isn't talking about heaven. He's not talking about some spiritual nirvana. He is talking about here, this physical world.
That's a pretty big shift in perspective. I think most people assume spiritual means somewhere else. We're down here in the mud, God is up there, and the goal is to, climb a ladder and get out of here.
Right, that's the standard view.
Yeah.
But Chassidic just flips it. It says, no, we didn't start isolated. We started immersed. This world was the home.
The default setting.
Exactly. The core concept is that originally the Sh-khi-nah, the divine presence, was right here, tangible, in the physical realm.
Okay, so if that was the default, what happened? Because, looking around today doesn't exactly feel like the default is infinite divine presence.
No, it feels more like traffic and anxiety.
Right.
Well, history happened. Humanity made some choices. The sources describe a retreat. It starts with the tree of knowledge.
The first sin.
Then Cain, the flood, the Tower of Babel. It's a greatest hits of biblical failures, really.
We went on a roll there.
We did, and with each of these ethical collapses, the Sh-khi-nah withdrew. It didn't vanish, but it moved up.
You described it like an elevator going to the penthouse.
That's a great way to put it. The mystical texts map out 7 heavens. With the first sin, the presence moves from earth to the first heaven. The next sin, up to the second.
All the way to the 7th.
All the way up. And by the time that's done, earth is left sort of spiritually empty, a shell.
We're left in the dark. But the story can't end there, or we wouldn't be doing this. The elevator has to come back down.
It had to. And this is where the tzaddikim, the righteous ones, enter the picture. The text outlines a reverse process. Just as 7 generations pushed God away, 7 generations of leaders arose to pull the Shekinah back down.
And this starts with
Abraham,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a guy who discovered monotheism. He was like a gravitational force. Through his kindness, his devotion, he pulled the presence from the 7th heaven down to the 6th.
So he started the momentum.
Yes. And then his son, Yitzchak, pulls it from the 6th to the 5th.
It's a multi-generational relay race.
Exactly. Isaac to Jacob to Levi, Keha, Amram, all the way down to Moses. Moses was the 7th in line. And the text quotes that famous midrash, all 7s are beloved.
What's so special at the 7th?
It's because he finishes the job.
Yeah.
His mission was the final pull, to bring the divine presence from that first heaven all the way back down to ground zero.
To Earth.
To Earth. And the mechanism for that final step was the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert.
And when they built that,
the divine presence finally landed, so to speak. And this sets up the entire mission statement. The goal of life, according to this text, isn't escaping Earth. It's Di-rah Be-takh-to-nim.
Let's break that down.
It means a dwelling place in the lowest realms.
Lowest realms, meaning right here.
Yes, the mission is to drag heaven down to earth, to make this place, with all its flaws, comfortable for the divine.
I love that concept. It's so grounding. But, act the devil's advocate. You said make this place comfortable. Have you seen this place? The world is messy. It's full of ego, lies, distraction, just nonsense. How do you build a holy sanctuary out of that?
This is where the text gets really fascinating linguistically. It points out a pun, a play on words. The tabernacle, the Mishkan, was built of acacia wood.
In Hebrew, that's shittim.
Right, shittim wood. But the word shittim is related to the word shtut.
And shtut means what, folly? Insanity.
Exactly. Foolishness. Irrationality. The text calls our reality Alma de Shukra, the world of lies, a place that aggressively hides the truth. It presents us with a constant stream of shut.
So what does that folly look like in practice?
It's that voice that says, you're separate from God, or material success is all that matters, or, nobody's watching, go ahead and cut that corner.
It's a delusion.
A delusion that covers up the truth of existence. The world is built of crazy, and the Rebbe's strategy in the Mamar is this. You cannot fight that insanity with logic.
Why not? Isn't logic the antidote to crazy?
Not in this arena. Standard reason isn't strong enough. Think about it. If you try to be a reasonable religious person, the world's insanity will wear you down. Logic can be twisted. You can rationalize anything. I deserve this just this one time. Everyone's doing it.
That's true. We can rationalize almost anything. So if reason is too weak, what's the weapon?
You fight fire with fire. You need Shtut,
holy insanity.
Or holy folly. It means going beyond reason. A suprational commitment.
That sounds intense. A little dangerous, maybe. Blind faith gets a bad rap.
But it's not about being reckless. It's about being unreasonable in your dedication to good. When the world says, hey, skip that ethical obligation, it makes financial sense, logic might even agree.
Logic says, save the money.
Right. Holy insanity says, I don't care about the calculation. I am doing what is right because it is the will of the king.
I see. It's a refusal to play by the rules of the world of lies.
Correct. You transform the boards of folly, the shittim wood, into the boards of the sanctuary. You take that wild, irrational energy of the world and you flip it.
So we're not destroying the world's nature, we're hijacking it, turning the nonsense into building blocks.
Precisely. We're elevating it. And this connects right back to your intro. This isn't some peaceful construction project. This is a war, a battle against darkness.
And this brings us back to the king and the treasure. The text distinguishes between two types of war, right? This part really clicked for me.
It's a crucial distinction. The source differentiates between a war for loot and a war for victory.
Okay, a war for loot.
That's calculated. Expansionist. The king wants to annex a province for more tax revenue. He does a cost-benefit analysis. If I spend 1 million gold coins, will I make 2 million back?
It's business logic, an ROI on war.
Exactly. And if the cost is too high, he calls it off. You don't empty the vaults for a few extra acres.
Makes sense. But a war for victory is totally different.
It's existential. The enemy is at the gates. They're trying to destroy the kingdom itself. If you lose, there is no kingdom left. In that scenario, does the king count his coins?
No. You spend everything. The money is gone anyway if you lose.
You spend everything. And this is why the king opens the Ot-zrot, those hidden treasure vaults. The text says these treasures were accumulated for generations. They're described as estima de kol estimen.
The most hidden of the hidden.
Like so high, so intense, they were never revealed before, not even in the good old days.
So these aren't the standard operating funds.
This is the nuclear energy of the king's essence. And because we are in that war for victory, the king says, take it all.
And this is the part that hit me. He gives this nuclear spiritual energy to us.
Yes.
Not the angels. Not the souls in higher heavens. He gives it to the people dealing with traffic and doubt and the muddy trenches of life.
It seems like a paradox, doesn't it? Why waste the highest light on the lowest people? But in the war analogy, it makes perfect sense. Where's the front line?
It's here, in the mud.
Exactly. The angels aren't fighting the darkness of the material world. They're safe in the palace. We are the soldiers in the trenches. Victory happens here, so the resources have to go here.
That's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
but it's also a lot of pressure. It implies a regular person today has access to spiritual resources that maybe even the great mystics of the past didn't have.
It does imply that, simply because the darkness we face is deeper, so the light provided must be brighter.
But then here's the practical question. If this light is so intense, how do we even handle it? You hand a foot soldier a nuclear weapon, he'll probably hurt himself.
That's the genius of the delivery mechanism. The light doesn't come raw. It comes wrapped. It comes in garments.
Which brings us to the story within the story. The parable of the prince from the Baal Shem Tov.
Yes. The Mamar uses this parable to explain it perfectly. It goes like this. A king sends his only son away to a distant land to, help him grow.
Toughen him up, a standard royal move.
But the son is gone for a long, long time. He runs out of money. He forgets his father. He forgets the palace etiquette. He even forgets the language.
He's totally assimilated. He doesn't even know he's a prince anymore.
The king misses him desperately and sends his best ministers to bring him home. They show up in their sign robes, speaking the high, poetic palace language.
And the prince?
He has no idea what they're saying. It's just noise. They're speaking philosophy, and he speaks survival. They fail.
But what works?
One wise minister figures it out. He takes off his silk robes, puts on rough peasant clothing, and goes to the tavern where the prince hangs out. He orders a drink and just starts talking to him in the street language.
He meets him where he is.
He tells a simple story, and through that simple story, in that peasant language, a spark is reignited. The prince remembers, wait, I know this. I am the son of the king.
I love that. So what's the peasant clothing in our reality?
It's the stories of the Torah. It's the physical mitzvah. When we read a narrative in the Bible about siblings fighting or a journey in the desert, it looks like a simple story.
It's relatable. It's not high-level metaphysics.
But hidden inside that simple story is the minister, the deepest wisdom. The source argues that abstract philosophy is the palace language. For us down here, it just flies over our heads. But a story, a physical act, like giving charity, that speaks our language.
So the garment lets us hold the treasure. The story is the delivery system for the infinite.
Exactly. And here is where it gets really beautiful. The text talks about simple pleasure. The king actually gets more pleasure from the prince recognizing him through the peasant disguise than from a normal chat in the palace.
Why? Wouldn't you want your son to be eloquent and royal?
Because the recognition in the tavern shows the connection is unbreakable. Even when the prince is at his lowest, the core relationship holds. That simple pleasure is what we generate when we find God in the nonsense of this physical world.
It validates the struggle.
It means the struggle is the point. We're not failing because we're in the mud. We are exactly where the victory needs to happen.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We have the cosmic yo-yo bringing the presence down.
Yeah.
Holy insanity to fight the nonsense.
Yeah.
The king's treasure for the war. And simple stories and actions as the vessels for that power.
That's the full architecture, a complete system for how to view your life.
There's one last piece I want to touch on. The text mentions we aren't just starting from scratch. It talks about accumulation.
Yes, and this is vital. The source explains we're the beneficiaries of all of history. We're standing on a mountain of spiritual wealth.
An inheritance.
Exactly. Every good deed, every prayer, every act of avodat Hashem from all the generations before us. It didn't disappear. It all accumulated. Abraham, Moses, the mystics, the simple Jews, they all put equity into the account.
So when we're called foot soldiers, we're actually the most well-funded soldiers in history.
We are dwarfs on the shoulders of giants, but that means we can see further. They did the heavy lifting. We just have to finish the job.
And that job is the victory.
The final victory. Making this world a permanent home for the divine. The text emphasizes that the treasures have already been released, the locks are broken, the Ot-zrots are open.
That feels like a direct charge to anyone listening. It's not passive.
It is. It's telling you, you have the resources. You might feel like you're just struggling through the week, but you are carrying the hidden of the hidden lights in your pocket. You just have to use them.
Use the holy insanity. Do the right thing even when it doesn't seem to make logical sense.
And value the simple acts. The simple pleasure is in the small, physical good deeds. That's where the king is hiding.
It really changes how you look at a Monday morning, doesn't it? It's not just a grind. It's the front line of a cosmic battle where you already have the winning hand.
That's the perspective shift Chassidic offers, turning the mundane into the mission.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought. We've established the king has given us everything needed for victory. He's emptied the vaults.
The ultimate resources.
So here's the question. If the king has already given us the most hidden treasures necessary for victory, and we are the soldiers on the front line holding them, Does that mean the war is actually already over?
That is a provocative thought.
Maybe the battle isn't about fighting anymore. Maybe it's just about opening our eyes to realize we've already won. We're just standing on the battlefield holding the trophy, waiting to notice it.
That would be the ultimate holy insanity, to celebrate the victory before the smoke clears, to live with the joy of the outcome right now.
Something for you to mull over as you go about your week. Find that little bit of holy crazy in your day and remember what you're carrying. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Goodbye.